नमस्ते, मैं हूं अनामिका सिंह. I am a senior research scholar from Regional Institute of Education, Mysuru. In this particular video, we will be continuing to solve previous year's question paper of December 2024 for our preparation for CTET exam, that is paper 2 of social science. Now, without further ado, let us move on and look at the first question in front of us. Consider the statements A and B. Choose the correct option of the following. Statement A. Summative assessment monitors the learner's progress throughout the teaching learning process. Statement B. Formative assessment is conducted at the end of the course. If you remember our continuous and comprehensive evaluation concept that CBSE has brought in, it spoke about formative assessment being a rigorous and continuous assessment wherein there is a check at every level, whereas summative assessment is the one which is done at the end of a particular course. So here they have given it in the opposite manner. So both of these statements are false. So the correct option here would be option 3. Both A and B statements are false. The next question. Which of the following questions promote critical thinking? A. What are the different ways through which the government can take steps to provide health care for all? Discuss. Examine the statement as compared to Amazon, pollution in river Ganga will affect human life greatly. C. Differentiate between the physiography of Brazil and India. D. Describe important features of Himalayas. And E. What are the role of Zamindar in Mughal administration? So whenever we are saying that we have to promote critical thinking, so when all of these questions are posed to our learners, what kind of thinking will it involve? Will the thinking process only involve trying to remember and recall certain points, or will it involve for them to critically think about it and also try to find certain reasons? So if you look at all the statements here, there are some statements which are just seeking information, like what was the role of Zamindar in Mughal administration, describe the important features of Himalayas. So when we talk about these kind of statements, we are just trying to address the recalling aspects of it. So the students will have to remember and tell us, whereas the other statements, like they are talking about or using words like examine, discuss. So the right option here will be that only A and B statements will be promoting critical thinking, whereas all the other three statements are talking about recall based or trying to remember certain aspects. Let us move on to the next question. Select the reason behind the low wages paid for agricultural laborers. So the agricultural laborers are being given very low wage. So what is the reason behind this? Option 1, they are satisfied with wages prevailing in the market. They are not skilled enough. Third one, they depend on landowners for a regular work. And option 4, most of them do not have their own land. So the right answer here, why the agricultural laborers are getting paid with low wages, is option 3. They depend on landowners for a regular work. They do not have their own land and they have to rely on the landowners, and thus they are paid very less money for their work. Let us see the next question. Social science curricular activities can be made more engaging for students by. So these are questions on social science pedagogy. Now let us see what are the options in front of us, and the objective of the activity is to make it more engaging. So how can we do it? The first one is reducing critical thinking and discussion in favor of lectures. Second, incorporating technology and multimedia resources, focusing only on the most important historical events and figures. And option 4, emphasizing memorization of facts and figures. So when you look at the 4 options, 3 of the options are not actually pertaining to the principles of National Curriculum Framework 2005 and also the present National Curriculum Framework and the new education policy. So they are all talking about promoting critical thinking. They are also talking about incorporating various kind of TLMs so that it becomes more and more engaging for our learners. So in order to make sure that the learner participates and engages in the classroom, we need to incorporate various technology and multimedia resources. So option 2 is the right answer here. Next question. Match the following and choose the correct option. So they have given various terms in the A column and then explanation of it in B. So we need to tell where, how, and these TLMs can be used appropriately. So let us look at what all we have. Narration charts, relationship charts, flow charts, and tabulation charts. So what are these particular TLMs will be used for? Like steps in a process. So when it talks about various steps, which option would be right here? Let us check. Then data in the form of table. Then there is historical development and show cause and effect relationship. So if you try to find out the keyword here, relationship charts, and then in B column we have number 4, show cause and effect relationship. So B4, in which option do we have B4? If you try to do it this way, you can quickly reach the answer without wasting or utilizing most of your time. So the right option here is option 2. So narration charts, they help for us to understand about the historical development. Relationship charts will show cause and effect relationship. The flow chart will show us steps in a particular process, and the tabulation chart will give us data in the form of table. Let us move on to the next question. The independence of judiciary implies. So it is said that the judiciary is independent. So what does this mean? Let us look at the options. The judiciary can work under the pressure of legislature if required. Option 2. The legislature and the executive cannot interfere in the work of the judiciary. Option 3. The judiciary can direct the legislature to frame appropriate laws. And option 4. The judiciary can direct the executive to implement the laws properly. So if you see the word independence, it talks about doing away. There is no involvement of any other status of power. So when you look at the options, there is only one option which is talking about independence. All the other options are talking about involvement of either the legislature or the involvement of executive functions. So now here if you look at, the right answer will be option 2. The legislature and the executive cannot interfere in the work of the judiciary. So let us look at the next question. Which one of the following statements is correct regarding the nature of social science? Social science is a dynamic subject that generates debate and discussion. Statement B. In social science, only individual human relations are considered and not the accounts of individual actions. Statement C. Social science is primarily interdisciplinary subject with a focus on discovery and experimentation. And statement D. The scope of social science is very narrow and hence it is fit to teach it only at the primary level. So if you look at all these statements, there are two statements which are talking negatively about social sciences or limiting its applications and also its boundaries. So that is, the scope of social science is very narrow. That is not true. So D option we need to remove. Then we know that social science is a dynamic subject. So A option is correct. And also in social science, only individual human relationships are considered, which is not true. Social science, it talks about the society, the community. Hence, this statement is also wrong. So the right answer here would be A and C only, which is the statement A and C are true when it comes to the nature of social science. Moving on to the next question. 60% weightage is given by the teacher to open-ended questions in a social science question paper. Which skill does the teacher want to test among students through this strategy? So there are various kind of questions that we can develop while we are trying to assess our students. So this particular teacher has given maximum 60% weightage to open-ended questions. So what is that the teacher is trying to build among the learners? Which skill is being worked on here? Let us look at the 4 statements, that is writing skills only, interpersonal skills, logical thinking and creative skills, application and presentation skills. So if you look keenly, there are only few skills here which are talking about the higher level, wherein you use your own knowledge and write open-ended questions. There is not much limitations to what is being asked in the question. So the right answer here would be C and D only. Logical thinking and creativity skills and also application and presentation skills are being tested here in this particular question. Let us look at the next question. Which of the following aspects is considered in the Right to Education Act 2009 as part of evaluation procedure? So Right to Education Act also becomes an important concept when it comes to seated examination for various subjects. So now let us look at the 4 statements given. Conform with the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Examination should involve mainly summative assessment, development of the physical abilities of learners to the fullest extent. Examinations are conducted within the school premises. So the Right to Education Act, it does not necessarily talk about where the examination should be conducted as such in the school premises itself. So option D we can remove. Now also the examination should not be mainly summative. Various policies and the present NCERT is talking about making the examination system more and more flexible, and it should not be summative assessment only. The assessment should involve both formative and summative aspects. Therefore, option B also we need to eliminate. So the right answer here would be statements A and C only. So this is the right answer here. So now let us look at the next question. Read the statements A and B and choose the appropriate option. Statement A. Contemporary challenges to the principle of a democratic society are conflicts such as those between individual rights and social responsibilities. Statement B. Within a social science classroom, a conflict resolution approach could be used to engage students to study problems of democracy. So if we read both of these statements, they are talking about the contemporary challenges to the principle of a democratic society, which is the conflict between individual rights and also social responsibilities. So what can we do? We can try to give our students or engage the students to discuss these problems of democracy in the classroom. So let us see here between these two statements, which statements are true and false is what they have asked in the question. So as you can see, both of these statements are true. And hence the option 2 will be the correct answer here. Moving on to the next question. Indian Constitution lays down norms of participation of people into social movements that seek to challenge the government. Does the Constitution talk about this? Let us look at this next option, the National Curriculum Framework. Option 3, the basic laws or rules that have to be followed by everyone. And option 4, the structure of religious institutions. So if you look at the 4 options, clearly there is only one answer which is most appropriate and correct. So option 3 is the right answer here. The Indian Constitution lays down the basic laws or rules that have to be followed by everyone. Moving on to the next question. The objective of establishing Panchayati Raj institution in India was to achieve. The statements are participatory governance, cultural homogeneity, democratic decentralization, and religious diversity. So these are the 4 statements. Which of these 2 are the major objective for us to have Panchayati Raj institutions in India? So if you look at all of these 4 statements, only 2 of them are actually talking about what are the intentions or what are the main objectives of starting it. The others, they are actually not appropriate here. So if you see here, the A, participatory governance, and also democratic decentralization. The decentralization of power and also having more and more participation from the local levels is what is the major objective for establishing Panchayati Raj institution. So the right answer here would be option 1. A and C statements are the major objectives. Let us look at the next question. Which of the following topics are highly appropriate for middle level students? So for the middle level students, which of these topics will be most appropriate? It will consider their age appropriateness and also what kind of previous knowledge that the students already have. Based on that, which of these topics will be very appropriate for our learners? Let us see what are the 4 topics given. Contribution of Mahatma Gandhi in history, economic development of India, status of women in the present scenario, and reasons for population growth. So if you see, these topics are addressing various domains or various skills of the learners. So the difficulty level is also different. So based on this, when it comes to the middle level students, we will be considering only A and C topics for our students. The others are at a higher level. Let us look at the next question now. How can a social studies teacher develop social values among students? So let us look at the 4 ways they have mentioned. Developing sense of discipline, behaving in the appropriate manner in school or class, asking students to watch commercial movies, follow appropriate democratic values in class or school settings. So if you see all of these 4 ways by which the teacher can develop social values, there are a few which we can remove. So the first one, that is developing sense of discipline. Next, behaving in the appropriate manner in school or class. These 2 statements are true. We can instill values in our students. If you see the third statement, asking students to watch commercial movies, I am not sure how that will contribute to having values among the students. The next is follow appropriate democratic values in class or school setting, and hence we need to remove the third statement here. So the right answer would be only 1, 2 and 4. Moving on to the next question. Which one of the following teaching methods are suitable to overcome the teaching challenges faced in social sciences? So if you look at all the options that are given here, they are actually taking principles or the maxims of teaching. Let us see. A, from specific to general, from complex to general, from known to unknown, and from analysis to synthesis. So if you see, we never go while teaching of any subject for that matter, all the more in social sciences, from complex to general. So we need to remove B here. So if you eliminate B, we will be left with only one option, that is the correct answer here, A, C and D. So we will be using from specific to general. We will also use from known to unknown, and we will go for analysis to synthesis. So that will be the right answer here. Moving on to the next question. What does it mean to use the dialectic approach to teaching in the social science classroom? So there are various approaches to teaching and learning of social sciences. So in this particular dialectic approach, it is basically about having discourse and discussions, lot of lectures. So there is a lot of oral talk happening here, lot of involvement from the students, as in they get involved in discussions. So now let us see what are the options in front of us and which would talk about the dialectic approach. The first one is using maps and atlases to enrich students' understanding of geography. Using dialogue between student and teacher as the main method of knowledge generation. Using drama in the classroom to generate interest in students. Using examples and analogies to clarify abstract concepts. So if you see, all of these 4 options in front of us are very positive and very good approaches to teaching of social science. But here they have asked us specially about the dialectic approach. So the right answer here would be option 2, using dialogue between student and teacher as the main method of knowledge generation. Let us look at the next question. Which of the following questions asked by the teacher come under the category of exploratory and critical questions? So let us look at the various questions they have presented in front of us. What is the southernmost part of the Himalayas called? Is this question actually exploratory or critical in nature? Let us look at the other options. Is the sun a star? Why? Why does more population reside in the northern plains? Between which two countries is the Pak Water Treaty located? So here there are some questions which are directly asking or involving only remembering related or recalling related concepts. Only two of these are actually wanting for the students to critically answer them or explore a little bit more. So here the right answer would be B and C. Is the sun a star? Why? Here the why word becomes the key word for us to understand. So whenever we are trying to ask critical questions or exploratory questions, we will be using WHY for that. So the next question is, small workshops and factories prefer to employ casual workers because, let us look at the reasons they have listed here. State has already taken care of workers' benefits. B. They can be fired without any prior notice. C. Most of them are not literate. And D. They could be paid lowest possible wages. So small workshops and factories, they are trying to employ only casual workers. That major reason for that is option B and D. So B and D statements, they can be fired without any prior notice and they could be paid lowest possible wages, as there are many people who are looking for jobs. So there are no rules governing this. They are not given any other benefits. So because of this, they prefer to hire these people. Let us move on to the next question. Nelson Mandela spent 28 years of imprisonment along with thousands of black and colored people. Why this happened? Let us see. In order to raise voice against king and royal monarchy, for opposing apartheid and struggle against policies of segregation, to get punishment for offense, to get powerful positions in government. So the right and the most appropriate answer here is option 2, for opposing apartheid and struggle against policies of segregation. Let us look at the next question. Which of the following is an incorrect statement about Gram Sabha? So the statements are, the Gram Sabha secretary keeps a record of the Gram Sabha meetings and proceedings. The work of the Gram Panchayat has to be approved by the Gram Sabha. The Gram Sabha secretary is an elected person. The Gram Sabha secretary is responsible for calling the meeting of the Gram Sabha and the Gram Panchayat. So when we were talking about the Panchayati Raj institutions, we came across this particular topic. So the right answer here is the Gram Sabha secretary is an elected person. This particular statement is false. All the other statements are true. This is also a repeated concept when it comes to our seated social science paper 2 questions. So try to learn more on Panchayati Raj institutions chapter from our NCERT textbooks. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following emerged as an important religion in modern Adivasi history during the 19th century? So, in the 19th century, various Christian monasteries were being built in these areas where the Adivasis were situated or located. Because of this, what has happened is, afterwards, more and more institutions of Christianity, various churches and also were developed, and because of this, the religion that emerged in this time is Christianity. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements A and B. The Government of India Act 1909 allowed for some elected representation system in India. And statement B is, through Government of India Act 1909, all adults were given the right to vote. So both of these statements are actually opposite to each other or talking about the same thing but in different manner. One talks about selected people being allowed for representation system in India, and in the B statement is talking about all adults being given the right to vote. So only one of these statements will be true. So if you look closely, they have given the Government of India Act 1909. So because of this particular act, only a certain set of people received the right to vote or have representation. So the right answer here is option 2, only statement A is true. Moving on, critical thinking is important in social science because it helps students to pass exam, it allows students to guess the correct answer, it helps students memorize the information more easily, it prepares students for higher level thinking, it promotes problem solving abilities. So if we are talking about critical thinking, this is a higher order thinking skill. And when you look at all of the reasons as to why it is important to have this in social science, we can eliminate some of the options here. It helps students to pass exam. Critical thinking is not considerate or not just built for exam purposes. So we can remove the first statement, that is A statement. So if you remove A statement, we will have our right answer, which is only D and E. So try to answer more questions using the elimination method. This will definitely save you time. Make sure to identify what you know best and build from there in order to answer a particular question. So only statements D and E are correct about why critical thinking is important in social science. Moving on to the next question. Which would be the best teaching approach or pedagogy to understand the trends in poverty in Indian states and union territories? So which of these strategies would be best or the pedagogy would be best? Let us look at the four options: brainstorming, field trip, debate, secondary data analysis. So whenever we are talking about trends, we need to go through reports, policy documents, and see how the status of things have changed over a period of time. So this will involve the secondary data analysis. So the right answer here is option 4. Coming to brainstorming, it is usually done in the engage phase, that is in the introduction of our lessons, and it is also to bounce back or discuss things or get ideas together in a discussion in the classroom. Field trips are best used in order to take the students to a particular site for them to experience something and provide them with experiential learning processes or the experience for that matter. The next one is a debate. The debates are usually done in the classrooms in order to have both opinions, positives and to and fro on a particular topic. So the right and the most appropriate answer here would be secondary data analysis. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following questions assesses the evaluation aspect of cognitive abilities? So we have discussed critical abilities and other levels of thinking. Now we are talking about the cognitive abilities. So Poshan Abhiyan is an important program to improve the nutrition level of Indian children. Examine the statement with evidences. So you need to see which of these is assessing the cognitive ability. So the next one that they have given us is colonial rule in India for 2 centuries left India with irreversible social change in India. Do you agree with this statement or not? Explain. Describe the important features of Jan Dhan Yojana. Poverty and unemployment in India has declined in the post-1991 India. Justify this statement. So we are trying to just look at the cognitive aspects. So the right answer here will be only A and B. So the statement A, which is talking about examining and giving evidences, and also B, which is asking us to explain why something has happened. So these two are the correct answers here. So option 2 is the right choice. The next question is, the teacher divides the children of her class into 4 groups and gives them to write the names of the sources of water and then discusses the sources of water with each group which of the following he or she is attempting first as part of 5E approach to lesson planning. So this question has come on the lesson plans that the teachers make. So this is also related to social science pedagogy. So what the teacher is doing, she has divided the students into 4 groups and asks them to name various sources of water, and only then discusses the sources of water with each group. So the right answer, or which stage of the 5E lesson planning this is in the engage phase. Moving on to the next question. A teacher wants students to understand the functioning of governmental bodies like village panchayat. Which of the following source of data collection will provide first-hand and authentic information? Let us look at the options. Textbook, newspaper articles, field trip and biography. So the basic functions of governmental bodies like village panchayat, if we need to understand and get first hand information, so the right answer clearly here is a field trip, so that the children can actually go to the field and have the first hand or the most authentic information from the people who are actually involved in the village panchayat. Now let us look at the next question. A belief that science requires a technical mind and girls and women are not capable of dealing with technical things signifies. So this particular statement, what it is signifying or reflecting? Is it ignorance? Is it a stereotype? Is it casteism? Is it illiteracy? Looking at the 4 options, we can clearly make out this is a particular stereotypical intuition that many people have, that the girls cannot understand science well. So here the right option would be stereotype. Moving on to the next question. In a field trip, which is the first skill to be developed among the students. So whenever we are taking our learners for a field trip, which would be the first skills that we will be developing? So when the student go for a field trip, they can observe and experience everything firsthand, and the skill that they will be developing is the observation skill. So the right answer here is option 3, observation skill. Moving on to the last question of this session. Rohit found that some children in his class could not explain the position of latitude and longitude lines on the map. What should Rohit do to help children acquire this competency? So this particular teacher realizes that in his class some of the students are having an issue with a specific topic, which is position of latitude and longitude lines. So when a teacher is trying to improve the learning of his own learners and also trying to conduct a small scale research in the class in order to improve the outcomes, it is called as action research. So the right answer here is action research. The end of our discussion in this video. So in this video, we have solved some more previous year questions which have come in December 2024 social science paper. So we discussed various types of questions that come and also some of the concepts which are very important for the preparation of this particular social science subject. So I hope this was helpful, and we will be meeting in other sessions discussing more questions from previous year CTET examinations. Thank you.